Tonight, we debate the debate. The tone was so nasty, were the American public the ones who really lost? Then, Republicans, they're bailing on Donald in droves. We're going to tell you which big names are leaving and why they say they just can't support their own party's nominee. Also, the new documentary that gives an inside look at Mario Cuomo, the man, and also Mario Cuomo, the governor, the filmmaker, will join us later in the show. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to RFL. I'm Richard French. Thank you so much for joining us. Wow. We're now just 28 days till Election Day. Hillary Clinton has pulled out to her biggest lead yet. Brand new NBC News Wall Street Journal poll shows Hillary Clinton with an 11-point lead. The poll was taken this weekend, that after Trump's Access Hollywood comments on the bus, but before last night's debate. Plus, big news today, House Speaker Paul Ryan, well, he's pulled the plug. He's announced he will no longer defend Trump, and basically saying to Republicans, you're on your own. Speaking of the debate, the early ratings show that more than 60 million people tuned in. That's down from the first one when more than 80 million people watched, but still more than respectable. But the tone was anything but respectable. Just take a look at a sample. Even before the first words were spoken, they made history. The two candidates didn't even shake hands, a first for a presidential debate. From there, it got ugly over that 11-year-old videotape that has rocked the Trump campaign.
You bragged that you have sexually assaulted women. Do you understand that?
No, I didn't say that at all. I don't think you understood what was said. This was locker room talk. I'm not proud of it. I apologize to my family. I apologize to the American people. Certainly, I'm not proud of it.
Clinton speaking out on the tape for the first time.
He has said that the video doesn't represent who he is, but I think it's clear to anyone who heard it that it represents exactly who he is.
It's just words, folks. It's just words.
And after days of buildup, Trump went there, dredging up Bill Clinton's sex scandals, even inviting Clinton's accusers to sit in the front row.
You can say any way you want to say it, but Bill Clinton was abusive to women. Hillary Clinton attacked those same women.
When I hear something like that, I am reminded of what my friend Michelle Obama advised us all. When they go low, you go high.
Trump then turned his attack to Hillary Clinton's emails.
It's just not true, and so please go
you didn't delete them?
Allow her to respond, please.
Personal emails, not official.
33,000?
Well, we turned over 35,000, so it was.
What about the other 15,000?
Please allow her to respond.
I'd like to get to the questions that the people have brought here tonight to talk to us about.
And get off this question.
Okay, Donald, I know you're into big diversion tonight, anything to avoid talking about your campaign and the way it's exploding and the way Republicans are leaving you. But let's at least focus on some of the issues.
Their first town hall encounter was a contrast in styles. Clinton taking vigorous notes from her seat, Trump pacing, glaring, sniffling, and at one point trailing Clinton around. They clashed over Trump's admission he used loopholes to avoid paying taxes.
Of course I do. Of course I do. She complains that Donald Trump took advantage of the tax cut. Well, why didn't she change it? Why didn't you change it when you were a senator?
Because I was a senator with a Republican president.
Oh, really?
I will be the
president. You
president.
could have done it. If you were an effective senator, you could have done it.
Under our Constitution, presidents have something called veto power.
Lot to unpack here. Let's bring in our panel to do that. Jeannie Zaino, professor of political science at Iona College, also senior advisor at the consulting firm Apply TE Chronomics. Help me out here. I can't do it. You got to make this easier for me.
I'm going to help you, Richard.
Yes, go slowly with it. Former Republican New York Congressman Bob Turner. He won after resignation of Anthony Weiner. Michael Tobman, an independent political consultant. Listen, without sounding holier than thou, this was a bad night, I think, for American politics, but also a bad night. In many ways, I thought the office of the presidency was debased. It's been 14 months of this. This didn't come out of left field. I know all that. But there was a couple points where it just felt ick.
Yeah, it was astounding to witness. I don't know that we've ever seen anything like it in presidential debates. Of course, those only go back to 1960, so we're not talking about all of American history. But, you know, to watch live on television as these people come out, and you rightly said, didn't shake hands, and it was so tense from the moment they started, and Anderson Cooper asked him that question about those tapes. And then she was on the defensive the last hour. You had the women in the front row. You had Bill Clinton. You had Chelsea Clinton there. Melania Trump in the audience. I mean, the whole thing was kind of an icky moment. So I think when you're talking about it from that perspective, it was shocking. But I would also add, if you're talking, you know, the way you judge an election is how good a job does it do at getting us policy that represents things that we want as the American public. And by any stretch of the imagination, this process does little to get us policy. Regardless of who is elected, neither one of these people is going to be able to work, or likely going to be able to work with the Congress that's there, and we will probably have more of the same deadlock for the next 4 years. So
unless
whether
there's
Republican
a
or
wave
Democrat,
out of this, and we'll get to that later in the program, but certainly I'll agree with Jeannie that if there's a gutter, whatever's below that is where we went to. But listen, in a former life here, you do the Jerry Springer show, and you knew these kind of things. And I know there's a few episodes that you wouldn't let go to air. If I, in a million years, told you we would have a guy an hour before the actual second presidential debate trot out women that Robert Stone is paying $2,500 cash to show up, and then there's a fight as to if they can put him in the family box. After a tape that he makes that everyone struggles in my world to bleep out words that I still can't say on TV. You say that we've, I don't know, gone in some parallel universe. You can't, if I don't make this stuff up, my God, right?
Yeah. Now, once that tape went out, it was really hardball. And I don't think enough attention has been paid to the strategies for this. That tape is 11 years old. It's been sitting somewhere, I think, within the Clinton campaign.
There is no evidence of that right now.
Of course not.
Right. And the folks at NBC and Access Hollywood, they could have put the thing out before.
It just happened to nonsense. However, but it came out, a thing like that usually comes out 6 days before the election. That's the surprise. It was released on Friday to coincide with the release of the Podesta
the WikiLeaks
emails. Yes. And that blew that right off all the pages. This was like a tsunami of press coverage. All the attention was focused here. That's hardball politics. It worked for her. And now it's pushback time, and we saw part of that. If there was something that I thought was amiss, that this isn't about Bill Clinton, it's about her. But she had a role in this, in protecting him and accusing and damning the women, the victims of this predator, for her own political gain.
But you know what, just from a visceral standpoint,
horrible.
You sit there, and I thought to myself, they're all big boys and girls. Nobody thought politics is for the faint of heart. I get that. But he brought the women, and he tried to put them, it was like out of a WWE thing where it's a bad scripted, you know, match they're going to do. She's there, and her daughter's there. And he's bringing women out. Now, no one claimed that Hillary Clinton abused these women or did whatever else. She was the jilted spouse, and this is going back a ways. She didn't put out the tape. There's going to be more stuff coming out, okay? We already know Geraldo Rivera says he's got some stuff. Apparently there's tapes in the NBC things where he's using the N-word. There's more tax documents that are coming out from the Washington Post. It's going to get gross over the last 29 days. But to me, I saw that, and I said to myself, we're really going to do this for 90 minutes? It just felt like this is bad.
Unfortunately, we've come to a point in American politics and campaign politics where we need to adjust our expectations downward. There is no bottom. The bottom is always being adjusted downward. And I think Bob Dylan said, just when you think you've lost everything, you find out you can lose a little more. As a civic space and as a political country, we're finding that out now. I want to go back in time, and if we all had a time machine, I think the Republican presidential primaries could have done a better job of vetting this. And how many times around this table did we say the voters are going to make a decision. They're going to realize Trump can't be it. And, you know, it would be a different campaign with Ted Cruz or Marco Rubio. And watching this the other evening, you're right. The bottom fell out, and we're all victims for it.
I'll get to the GOP. Huge story today with Ryan. But listen, I saw snap polls out of this. Who won? I think Trump had a better night last night, as gross as it was, than he did in the first debate. Some of the snap polls, you saw CNN, they had her winning going away. Other ones, I had it more as a draw here. I don't think it really moved the needle tremendously one way or the other. I think it hurt us as a process, like we said. But I've heard a lot of people say she could have put him away and she didn't. Could she have? Could she have? But did she risk more if she decided to really go there with him and get into all of his moral failings? Or should she have attempted, as she tried at least for a while, to stay above it?
You know, it was astounding to watch. I have to agree with you. I thought that no other politician in the United States could have done what Donald Trump did last night, because he had a scorched earth strategy and he went out with it. And you've got to give him credit if you're looking at it from a strategic perspective. People were telling him to go out and be contrite, go out and you know, apologize profusely. He did anything but, and you know what? It worked for him. I mean, he stopped the bleeding, so you've got to give him credit for that. But you know, how she could respond, I think she could have responded in a different way. I think she could have said, taken on the issue of Bill Clinton and the women and said, look, you know, I did what was in the best interest of my family. I did what was in the best interest of my marriage and the United States. You know, she could have gone there.
And all you did was did right for you.
Yeah,
right,
it's a very tough thing to tell somebody to do. But I think to Bob's point, I couldn't agree more on the timing of this drop. And also, if this is dropped 30 days before, as you said, what is coming next?
Do you know what else
Can't
is
even
coming?
imagine what is going to come next. It's going to be incredibly ugly if this is what they chose to get those WikiLeaks off the table, which I think is absolutely true, as much as they've denied it.
And again, we have to stress, zero evidence, even from the NBC acknowledged they had this. There was an internal debates about what to do, got leaked to the Washington Post. The Washington Post dropped the video, and we all know where it goes from there. But my question is, think about this. You have Billy Bush, who, I'm sorry, is a bubblegum bubblehead on the 9 o'clock morning time period, who's suspended for basically being a sycophant to Donald Trump, and he still is the presidential nominee for president. I mean, just let's think about what we punish and what we don't now. And he was considered to have a good night last night because he went there against an affair the woman's husband had, or affairs, whatever you want to call it. My God, just the curve that we're grading him on is unbelievable. You gotta give me that, right?
Yes.
But do you think this is the new normal or no? But do you think this is the new normal or no? Or do you think there's only one of him?
There's only one of him. And you know, most Republicans, who particularly the establishment types, and I was surprised to learn that I'm part of the establishment now, came to the Trump party kind of late. And a lot of the ones that are dropping out now never really came at all. But he is at odds with the Republican Party, has been. He's been at odds with the establishment, media, academia, you name it.
Basically every different socioeconomic group too, but yeah.
He has hit a nerve with the American public.
Except for the voters who made him the nominee.
Yes.
So, you know, it's like we say about some politicians in New York City, the only people who don't dislike them are the voters, which means, you know,
But you
we
know,
all need to reconsider
we have
this.
to be honest about who else could she have beaten?
Right.
She couldn't have beaten, you know, Rubio. I mean, Bush, she couldn't
never
have
know.
beaten.
I always hear that. I would agree.
I mean,
Certainly,
she's
you think
barely
yourself,
hanging
who
on against this guy.
She's up
I
more
mean,
than 10 points, and that's not barely at this time. You want to look at history? I've heard from everything. You know polls better than me, Jeannie, and you're close to it. Every poll,
she'll get him by
every
3 or
internal
4
they're
points.
hearing. Every internal poll that they're hearing is the numbers and the spreads are even worse. Paul Ryan wouldn't have done what he did if this was 3 points, okay? Paul Ryan certainly wouldn't have announced what he did today if we were in the margin of error.
The real tragedy would be is if the Democratic president, she's likely to win, that the Democratic president learns nothing, and that the Democratic Party learns nothing from this process, and establishment Republicans learn nothing from this process, which is how did he become the nominee? What have we missed? What's going on in our wider discourse
There
and
are
the resentments
two
and the anger.
Americas. If anyone believed there wasn't, and I did not fully understand just how much the divide was, there are two Americas
Does it feel
that
as if
this
we
season
dodged a
proved.
bullet and then just say and move on?
Big mistake.
It'd
Okay.
be a big mistake.
You
I'm
mentioned the
sorry to speak over you.
GOP. This is seismic for the party here and where they have to go, not just for the next 29 days, but beyond here. Republicans dropping like flies and dropping their support for one Donald Trump. So the question is, where does the grand old party go next?